Alrighty, guys, we're back to our normal political type of thing, and not political, but things that are going on in Australia now. I'm watching one of my more common channels I watch regularly because agree with a lot of issues, not all of them, but a lot of them. Apparently, England has fallen and Australia is next. Personally, I think Australia is already in that situation right now. I think we are following England. We have a government that is so hopeless. I live in Melbourne, guys, and we are probably the wokest city in Australia. Not something we should be proud of. Let's go.
Time now, England and the UK has been the laughing stock of the Western world, and it
Yes, they
pains me
have.
to say, it upsets me to say this, Australia is next.
Told ya.
Right now in the UK, there are about 30 arrests every single day for online communication offences.
I don't know. I've got an issue with like how they say about online. I mean, here's the thing. I don't agree with everything he says when it comes to the social media thing. I mean, pure hatred is not something that should be on the internet. Like, if you don't like someone, fine. Okay, you can say you don't like them, blah blah blah. But when you're going to pure hatred, I don't know if that should be allowed on the internet because. But I also agree that there needs to be some sort of freedom on there. So it's hard to like find the middle ground. But I do agree with him. I think they're going way too overboard, too protective. You need to be able to tell people, say, call people out on their shit, regardless of what they are. I don't give a shit what nationality you are. I don't care if you're from Australia, America, US, Europe, Iran, Iraq, any of those countries, anywhere in the world. I just don't care.
The country itself is being swarmed by illegal migrants from
Yep,
overseas, which in
that's Australia.
has led it to start to lose its identity. Crime gangs running riot throughout the entire country. Knife crime, machete crime through the roof. It's starting to sound similar, isn't it? Politicians
Sounds like Melbourne.
allegedly trying to cover it all up because they're scared of the fallout. How's this? A grandmother was arrested for holding a sign about conversation outside a Scottish hospital that was performing abortions. She just wanted to talk to people. In Scotland,
How is that? What did you get arrested for that? That's the dumbest thing to get arrested for.
it's illegal to stir up hatred, whatever that means, against people's age, disability, religion, sexual orientation, transgender identity, and various sexual characteristics. Oh, and by the way, things that you say in your private home to your friends and your family, well, you can be charged for that as well.
Of
There
course
is
you
now a
can.
freedom of expression clause with that, but that was like pulling fucking teeth. They didn't want to put that in. Teachers are being investigated for using the wrong pronouns or teaching biological.
Who cares if they get I don't give a shit, man, guys. I'm always gonna say she or he. That's it. That's it. I don't care if you're if you're trans or whatever the case may be. If you're going around telling me what to call you because you're socially awkward or whatever the reason is, I don't care. I don't. I just don't care.
Sex. Ladies and gents, all of these points, and there's a lot more, I've got a fucking whole list of them. All of these points are showing you how bad the United Kingdom and England and Scotland are right now.
Trust me, those are the only ones.
Since the Bondi shooting, Australia's heading down that path
I know.
faster than ever before. And guess what? Your country's next.
Basically, what was happening was Australia was going down at 20 k's an hour on the freeway. Since the Bondi incident, we're going up to 100. That's basically how I look at it.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I mean, probably don't need to pause
not
this either.
surprise you that I think that the United Kingdom is a fucking shithole right now. I
I
love
agree.
the UK. I've only ever been there once, and I can't wait to go back. I won't be doing shows there. I've made a video about that. It's too risky for me because I make jokes that are half decent. All of these countries seem to have socialist dictators and rabid supporters who are just so desperate to have like the rules and the government crumble down upon everybody. It is heinous. It's horrendous. And since the Bondi shooting, we've seen this happen time and time again in Australia.
Yeah, I agree.
Knee-jerk reactions where they're desperate to control the population through gun laws, through hate speech laws, through anti-protest laws. They are going off the fucking deep end and no one
Definitely.
is stopping them. And yes, most of this is under the guise of safety. And the government's like, holy shit, what do we do? Well, we must do what all these other countries are doing. They're installing more and more laws and more safeguards to keep people safe. And I understand that from the outside looking in, it seems like they're
A
doing
good
the right
idea,
thing.
but
But
no, it's
I
not.
just think if you look at history, every single time you curtail someone's freedom and freedom of expression and freedom of speech, it ends up being a terrible thing.
Yeah,
Very much a net negative. And here's the thing, it's not just my freedom of speech that's under threat. It's everyone
everyone.
who agrees with me, everyone who disagrees with me, everyone who hates me, and everyone who loves me. There's millions, ladies and gentlemen, and they're all watching my special, my comedy special. It's out right now on YouTube. Go and check it out. It's very, very good. Now, this may come as a shock to a lot of you if you haven't seen this channel before. Both Australia and the UK, they just don't have the free speech laws that America does. And I think as Australians and as citizens of the United Kingdom, we look at movies from America and we hear about the protections that they have, the free speech amendments to the Constitution, and we think, oh, well, we must have those, but we just don't. In Australia, all it says is that we have implied freedom of political communication, which is such a broad term, it doesn't really mean anything. And I would argue that that is such a bad thing, and it's actually the reason both of these great nations are falling apart. And you can see this day to day. You can see it with all the people being arrested for the things that they say online in both the United Kingdom, which is happening, 30 times a day, and in Australia, which is starting to happen every single day. Australia even
Trust me, I
banned
know.
under 16s from accessing social media platforms, meaning that they can only access platforms that the government here in Australia allows them to or deems appropriate for them. For example, Blue Sky, which is like the far left version of Twitter. And
Oh,
they also
trust me, it's
decided that they
bad. I
would ban
know.
these
Sorry,
kids
guys.
from
Had something to check
YouTube.
up on.
Now, I don't know about you, but when I was under the age of 16, I loved YouTube and RedTube. I loved YouTube. I was learning more things here than at school. It was fantastic. So that's
That's
very,
great.
very sad, but it's a great way to control the
The population and what they think and all that. Yeah, I agree with that. That was one of the issues I had with the social media ban. I learned a lot more on YouTube than anything else. I mean, even though YouTube came out a bit late for me, but I know a lot of people who are younger than me learned a lot more on YouTube. So,
intelligence, if you will, or the facts and knowledge of a population and a generation. The UK are doing very much the same thing. They're really cutting down on the ability for people to spread hate and abuse. Now, obviously, that sounds like a lovely thing, but
yeah, it
who
does.
defines what hate and abuse is? It's the same with misinformation. Who defines what misinformation is? Because what was misinformation 2 years ago is now known as fact for a lot of different things. One of the more horrifying terms that I get seen thrown around by both the UK government and the Australian government to do with the whole online censorship thing is the banning or the criminalisation of inflammatory posts. That's another one where you just go, well, what the fuck does that mean? What does that mean to each different person? What's inflammatory to you may not be inflammatory to me. The problem with
Yeah.
having such a broad definition of any of these terms means that you could be tried for anything you post. And something you post today may be inflammatory in the future. I've said this 1,000 times in videos. You may agree with what our government does now, but you may disagree with what they do in the future. The controls and the censorship they put in now will control what you say and what you think in the future. And the craziest thing about banning different types of hate speech is it doesn't go both ways. Right now, and I think this is how governments get elected, number one, and they maintain power, is they pander to one
Yeah.
side of the political spectrum. In this case,
That's probably
they're
a good way of
pandering
saying
to
it.
the far left voters. And the reason they do that is because, well, they get their votes. And I notice this because words like, death to Australia, shit like that, that's not inflammatory. That's not illegal. Having the Hezbollah flag, that's not inflammatory. I think it may be illegal now after some fucking lunatic shot a heap of Jews at the beach for no reason, but I'm not 100% sure on that. It goes even further. If there is a event like the Bondi shooting again in Australia, the government now has the power to ban protests for months and months on end. They can ban it for like 15 days and then they have to go through a process and ban it for another 15 days. We can go up for 3 months.
God damn it, that's really long.
Doesn't sound like a problem. Why would you protest after a terrorist event? Well, unless the government brings in a horrendous law afterwards that you disagree with. Even
That'll be a
last
reason.
week, when the Venezuelan president was overthrown, massive protests from communists in Australia, which is just ridiculous because every Venezuelan that you saw was celebrating it. But anyway, whatever. White people, you're doing great. This dude went and started chanting USA, USA at the protest, and he was arrested.
USA, USA, USA.
That is just saying USA and he gets arrested for something like that. That's stupid. Oh my god.
Everyone's got their masks. Oh my god. These are the people protesting being
Yep. They're screwed. We are obviously screwed if you've got people like this dude.
pro-communism in fucking Venezuela. This.
But he's not even doing anything. I personally think the police are doing it for his own protection. That's what I think they're doing it for, personally. Because he's going to get beat up. He's going to get beaten up. That's what I think in a way. I could be wrong.
I don't know why he's being like dragged away like that. Like he's not saying anything crazy. You could argue that maybe they were trying to go in there.
The question I got is why is there so many cops? Why? You don't need 60 cops on one person, especially him. He looks like he wasn't going to do anything stupid. I mean, 2 cops would be enough.
There to stop a big, angry event kicking off and all that type of stuff. But still, it's just fucking odd. We move from freedom of speech and censorship to a very touchy subject that can only be spoken about on YouTube if it is politely put. That is people who were not born in the particular country moving to the country. In the UK, there are massive issues when it comes to illegal immigration. In Australia, we don't have the same problem. Most people come here legally, and that is because we're an island in the middle of nowhere. If you look at the population differences since the 1980s, you see such a shift that the very fabric of what the United Kingdom has been for thousands of years has changed.
Yeah.
It hasn't changed like this since the Vikings arrived. If you look at the changes, back in the 1980s, there was 56 million people or so in the UK, and only 7% of them were born in different countries. Now, 63 million people, and about 20% were born overseas. If you look at just London, it's about half of the people who now live in London were born overseas. This is not
That's pretty bad.
shit about people who are migrants, okay? If you're a migrant watching this, if you're a good person, you're welcome in any country. And that goes for me going to America, right? If I spend time there, which I have spent time there, or if I'm going to the UK and I'm hanging out there, or I live there, or wherever I go, all right? It doesn't matter where you're from. I'm not talking about any color of any human being or any religion or anything at all, right? Talking about everyone. As long as you're a good person,
Of
you
course.
assimilate to that country, which you should do, right? Because you're a guest in their home. You shouldn't just fucking kick off and carry on. As long as you do that, then there's no problem with it. And there's so many. In America, there's so many of good like migrants that just go in there and they just get stuck into the USA culture. It's the same in Australia. Heaps of migrants of all different ethnicities who just love
And I know a
Australia.
few of
Same
them
reason.
myself, guys.
But there are problems with crime in the UK, and a lot of it has to do with illegal immigrants. And in Australia, a lot of it has to do with, unfortunately, legal immigrants. Not to mention, there's a massive issue with housing in Australia. I've covered that in other videos.
Yeah, we have.
People argue until the cows come home that's got nothing to do with migrants, but it's purely
does.
a supply and demand thing. There's too many people coming in from all different countries.
It
not just
does,
brown
it does, it
people. I
does.
don't know why people just think people are talking about brown. I'm talking about everyone from every fucking country. White people, brown people, black people, every person. In Australia right now, there's 31% of the people in this country were born overseas. Well, the net migration are about 500,000 people every single year. That is unprecedented. Also, one of the things that has changed is a lot of people coming into this country are from completely different cultures to the one that we live with here. And a lot of people may say, well, Australia doesn't have a culture. And to that I say, you're a dumb cunt. Of course it does. It's the same with the UK.
Every
A lot of
country
people come
does.
from very different cultures. And when you come from a very different culture and you live with other people from that culture in your new country, you just live in your same culture. Nothing much changes. And then that slowly changes the perception or the identity to the country that you live in. Take this, for example. If 50% of the people who lived in Tokyo tomorrow were born in Australia, wouldn't you say that the Japanese culture may be lacking in Tokyo? You probably would, right? Okay, I'm glad we covered that. The problem with this in the UK, of course, is there's some issues with gangs of people attacking women. I don't want to use
Yeah.
words that'll get me in trouble, but yes, there are those very big issues, and the politicians are ignoring this
Of course they
because
are.
they're cowards, obviously. In Australia, we're having issues with, well, Bondi shooting and shit like that, and also machete attacks, but they did put bins out for people to put the machetes in, so maybe that'll stop. I'm going to try and say this in the most PC way. If you come from a country that's war-torn, you might act in a more violent way than people who come from a more peaceful country. It's like when people come home from war. You can't expect them to live normal lives straight away. You know, they're going to be on the edge of their seat all the time. They're always going to be in fight or flight.
True.
Same if you come from a war-torn country. You know, you may not know how to live in peace. So that's why
True.
assimilation is so very important. And you may say everything that I've just said is horrible and racist and offensive, but if you
I don't
are
think
living
so.
in the
Not
UK
this time.
now, and you are affected by a SEX crime, it's
Yeah.
twice as likely to be done by a migrant than it is by a person born in the UK. And from that, we see this avoidance of nationalism. I think nationalism's fantastic. I think you should
Oh, of course
be
it
proud
is.
of your country. In Australia right now, you can't even fly the flag without being accused as being a racist. And in fact, you might get in trouble from the police.
Yep. We've been notified about the sign. Whilst it's not
Yeah,
offensive,
police.
in this current climate, there are concerns in relation to it being
Yeah,
present
dude,
on
get
main roads
lost.
that people
I'll be
stop
telling you to go and get
for
lost.
issues.
Let's go and have a look at the sign, and then you explain to me what you think is inciting about my sign.
In the UK, well, the same thing happens. They go on national TV and say you shouldn't be flying the flag at all.
A lot of people are frightened, a lot of people feel uncomfortable, and I thought, right, I'm going to take them down in my local area.
So you go up on a ladder. Did you do it in darkness?
No, I'll do it in broad daylight. I want people to see it.
And from all of this, from the censorship, from the fear, we have become a country that is avoiding the truth. This
Avoiding
is from the
dealing with it.
ABC, which is a government-funded organisation. That's
I want
the
everyone to be
craziest
able to do
headline
that stuff,
I've ever
guys.
seen.
Get
Ladies and
things
gentlemen, the UK
done.
has achieved Orwellian status, and Australia, well, we're right behind it. And that should horrify every single person
Oh, of course it does.
watching this. Freedom of speech needs to be protected in our constitution, and it's a change that could happen in our lifetimes, and it should happen in our lifetimes. Because right now, we're on a desperate path to destruction.
Yeah, we are. All right, guys. I think that'll be it for tonight because it is 11:15. 11:05. Sorry, a bit late. So I'm gonna upload these two videos I just done today. I think at least we're getting the channel growing, guys. I mean, I'll probably only put like one video a day on this one, or maybe every few days. Depends how we go. I kind of enjoy talking about these type of things and what other people think. Now, I'm not like the biggest commentary person at the moment. There's a reason I'm holding back a bit. Hopefully, once I get a bit more used to doing this stuff, yeah, I'll probably be a bit more open and a bit more expressive. But at the moment, yeah, well, it is what it is, guys. Tomorrow morning I'll probably be doing a lot more videos, so hopefully enough videos for maybe even a week. So already done 2 videos. I've got one for tonight and one for tomorrow. I'm thinking of just making it for tomorrow morning and the one for the day after. 'Cause it's only like I said, time I finish doing that, I'll be 11:30-ish, 11:45 maybe, and there just won't be any point. I think it'll be better off just doing it for tomorrow morning and then working out on that. So working a bit more on the channel in the morning, and then day after, I just got to work on my other channel, which is a little bit more. It's gonna be a little bit hard because it's gonna be one of those channels where I just randomly put things up. This one I can probably dictate a little bit more, like the Let's Plays. But yeah, it's gonna be one channel that's a bit more different. On that note, I'm going to finish it here, guys, because it's nearly 20 minutes into the video. I think we did pretty well today. I'll say good night and have a good sleep. Cheers, guys.